What's good, people? Agent Juice reporting for duty. I'm having me a lovely little hike in a park somewhere in Burbank. I'm not sure what the park is called. This video in Road to Meanie and Happyland is going to be about me discussing that whole plot versus story thing I talked about a couple of videos back. In plot versus story, I kind of want to, give my definitions in this video of what they are and what I mean by them. When I talk about plot in this instance, plot is the specific beats of a story that take you through the beginning, middle, and end. Story is the emotional core. It is the idea, the lesson, if you will, of the work. To give you a perfect example, I'm going to use Star Wars. The plot of Star Wars is that a young farm boy learns that he's a Jedi, and he must go on an adventure with the rebellion to stop the evil empire and learn the ways of the Force, and, save his evil daddy from the clutches of evil, and at the same time save the galaxy too. That's the plot. Those are the beats. The story of Star Wars is the hero's journey. It is this young boy growing up into a wizened warrior, right? That's the story. Plot and story are both obviously intrinsic to a work, but I believe that story is a little more important than plot for a kind of a specific reason. And that reason ties into the whole which one is more valuable to the characters. And you know me, my whole thing is that I firmly believe that characters mean more than anything in a story. The interesting thing about story is that because it's the emotional core, it needs to attach to the characters in order for the overall work to make sense. And the funny thing about story is that was a lizard. The funny thing about story is that this is not where you get to be creative. Stories are the building blocks of how we perceive the world. Because you guys have probably heard this phrase before. There are only 10 or 13 or 20 or whatever stories that have ever been told in human history, right? All of them have been told either by Shakespeare or the Bible. And so because of that, your creativity is not going to show in a story because it's so universal. But because it's universal, it's important. It's really important to your characters. So plot, on the other hand, plot is where you get to be creative, okay? Because Star Wars, using Star Wars again, has been told before. The hero's journey has been told countless times. In fact, I'm pretty sure that it is the most popular story that humans tell each other, the hero's journey. However, the plot of Star Wars is where it got to be Star Wars. The plot of Star Wars is where you get the Force, lightsabers, Jabba the Hutt, the Millennium Falcon. The things that you can brand basically and sell as toys. That's plot. And I believe that you can have the coolest plot in the world. You can have all this cool world building stuff. Oh yeah, lightsaber is going to be so cool because they glow and they go wee, 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 wee. But all that shit is nothing if there's no story and no characters to attach it to. All of that fancy shit in the world doesn't mean anything unless you can attach it to a story. So in Meanie and Happyland, it was important for me to tell the story of someone changing. Two people changing. Well, more than two people changing. Because it's Adon, the main character, the big bad meanie, Melody, who's kind of like the most mainest of the happy characters, and of course the rest of the happy characters. Because the story is about Adon learning about the nice world so that he's not so mean anymore. And then the happies eventually have to learn about his world so they get a greater context of what is really out there beyond their happy little safety bubble that they live in. And this particular story is not unique. Meanie and Happyland is not a unique story because the story has been told before. And I'll give you the example. And that's Cars.
I'm in Hillbilly Hell!
Pixar's Cars is basically the same story, not plot, story, as Meanie and Happyland. Lightning McQueen lives in his world and he's at the top of his game, and through circumstances ends up in backwater Yokeltown. And he's like, oh man, I hate these yokels. Oh, I'm trapped here. I'm stuck here because I have to rebuild this road. But as he's stuck there, he starts to learn about their ways and he starts to change. But at the same time, his presence there starts to change them. But that's the story. Now, the plot of Cars versus Meanie and Happyland is completely different. There are no cars in Meanie. Well, there are, but they don't talk in Meanie and Happyland. So the plot of Meanie and Happyland is the details, the way to kind of roll into everything that happens, whereas the story is one of the universal stories. You know, people change. They talk. I think the actual name of it is iron sharpens iron or something like that, where like one person, you change each other by being around each other. So that's the story. But the plot of Meanie and Happyland is where I get to make up all this cool shit. But all the cool shit doesn't mean anything until you get to see characters interact with it and evolve in the story. So that's what I'm trying to do. That is what I believe is the fundamental difference between plot and story. It's kind of weird. You know, I guess like the lesson here, the bigger lesson is that you must first understand the state of humanity, and then you get to make your mark. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up for today. If you guys like to see my pretty face and like to see me talk about my stuff that I'm making, go ahead and like the video. If you want to continue on this journey as I make my little cartoon, go ahead and subscribe, follow me. You can follow all of my links that I usually put in the description down below. And until next time, deuces.